She said she's going to join us, so.
Okay. Is the recording already started?
Yes, I just started it.
Okay, let's convene the meeting. We'll begin. It is Monday, July 29th, 2024, and we're convening a special meeting of the Vermont Community Broadband Board. Board members in attendance are Laura Sibilia, Brian Otley, Dan Nelson, myself, Patty Richards. We're expecting Holly shortly, but so far we have 4 on the call. And Christine, do you want to run down staff?
Yep, we have Rob Fish, Melissa Matthews, Alexi Montserrat, Ginny Raboyne, and Tony Clitheroe.
Excellent. Let's roll call. I'm going to make an motion to approve the agenda as provided. I see Holly just popped in. Hello, Holly. I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda as provided. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Ayes carry 5-0. First on our agenda is approval of minutes from June 10th and July 8th. We're going to take these separately, given that we have different folks that were not able to attend. The June 10th meeting, I noted that Brian Otley was not at that meeting. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the June 10th meeting. Is there a second other than Brian?
I'll second, but with a comment.
Okay, thank you for the second. Let's open up discussion.
May I proceed, Patty?
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm just noting, and this is probably something that we just, we need to get square on how we want to approach this with Ginny and Tony. There are to-do items after the minutes, which is great. Some of those to-do items say that they hit the parking lot. Others do not. And I don't think that we intend for there to be 2 levels of to-do lists here. So I'm a little lost. Like, I would actually like us to discuss a functional or a financial audit. And I did ask for a board recommendation, but it's evidently not on the parking lot. So that's I guess I'm asking for some clarification here about how we're treating the to-do list that follows at the end of the minutes.
Holly, my understanding was everything that is on the to-do list is hitting the parking lot from our last meeting. That's what we agreed to.
Okay.
Is that correct, Christine?
Yes.
So it should be anything that's an action item to follow up on should hit the parking lot.
Okay, so I'm going to reiterate my request that the discussion of an audit be put on the to-do list, because I'm not sure it actually hit the June 10th to-do list.
Yeah, somehow you should know that I even prepared a response for that for the next meeting, but
Great.
I don't know why it's not on the list, but we'll follow through.
Okay, good. That's super great. And I just would follow up by saying there's some of these, like a position on merger requirements and so on, that are probably pretty time sensitive. And so I hope that while I'm opposed to 2 to-do lists, I do have an urgent need to put an asterisk by some of those to-dos. So, okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and we will review that, Tony and I and Ginny, before the next meeting, make sure those timely stuff are brought forward.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, is there any other discussion on the June 10th meeting minutes?
Yeah, Patty,
Yes, Laura?
one of the action items on here was a review of the discussion around the term required with respect to the board's authority to issue an affordability policy. Is that something we'll be taking up at the August meeting?
Christine, do you have space on the agenda for the August meeting to review that?
Well, we'll discuss the agenda. We'll put it on the list, and then we'll
Okay,
then of course, you and I and Tony will just, we got to look at I don't know what the entire list is. Imagine like any of the lists that'll be packed, but, we'll have to decide on priorities when we get there for keeping it within 4 hours.
so Laura, that's still on the radar, and we'll see if we can put it in for the August meeting.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the meeting minutes dated June 10th, 2024, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Abstentions?
Aye, me.
Thank you. We have 4 in support. Brian Otley is an abstention because he was not at the meeting. Motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. I'm going to make a motion to approve the July 8th meeting. Is there a second? Discussion of the July 8th meeting minutes. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the July 8th minutes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain. Dan Nelson.
Dan Nelson abstain. The motion carries 4-0 with Dan abstaining as he was not in attendance. Okay, that is approval of the meeting minutes, item 2. Now we move to item 3, which is public comment.
Yep, at this point, if we have public comment, please raise your hand and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. I am not seeing any public comment.
Okay. Once, twice. All right, public comment is closed. Let's move on to the meat of the agenda today, which is item 4, deliberation and vote on the proposed motion to establish a methodology for allocating the $30 million appropriated for providing matching funds to eligible providers for federal broadband grant programs.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm asking to turn it over to Rob, and Rob is we're going to read the whole whereas and the whole thing for the board so we can have the whole motion read into the record. And also there was an addendum because of a minor change in date. That date changed as a result of a change, as we hadn't received permission from the NTIA yet for our version 2, still awaiting final word on that. But we did have to modify our schedule a bit, and we did that after the board packet went out, which is why we just changed that. We felt that change was important enough, that date, to send out the addendum.
Okay, so just for clarity, this was sent to the board on what date? What is the date?
Tuesday.
What is the date?
Would it be the 23rd, right?
And who is it from? Was it from Tony?
Yes, Patty.
Revisions, I have an email from Tony Clitheroe, revisions to motion dated Thursday, July 25th. That's the one we should be looking at?
Correct, Patty, though there is one additional correction that Holly alerted me to right before the meeting that I wasn't able to get fixed in advance of the meeting. Just a word that's left out of a defined term in one of the whereas clauses. It's not,
Okay.
it's very technical and not significant, but we should do it.
All right,
Okay.
so let's make sure that Rob is reading that one.
Yes.
Sure,
ahead, Rob.
and if possible, oops, Holly has a question, maybe?
I do. Are we reading this into the record because, can't we just refer to it on paper? Do we have to read it?
I guess I'll leave that up to Patty.
I think it should be read into the record to make sure that everybody has heard it. and
Okay,
it's
so
verbatim
Rob,
read. That's
Rob, when you're reading then, Rob, it's the next to the last whereas. The word qualified got left out in front of eligible providers.
Okay, thank you. I will do my best to remember that when I'm reading through this. It's quite long, but first I wanted to thank both Tony and Holly for working with programmatic staff to fine tune this and to put a lot more background in terms of the reasons and the rationale for what we are trying to do. So please let me know if you need me to slow down. I have a habit of reading too fast, but I will try. Say motion to establish the
Go ahead, Laura.
I just want to make sure that what is being read right now incorporates all of the suggested edits at this time.
correct.
Thank you.
Motion to establish the process for allocating the $30 million appropriated for providing matching funds to qualifying eligible providers for federal broadband grant programs. Whereas the Vermont Community Broadband Board is the entity authorized by the Vermont General Assembly to coordinate, facilitate, support, and accelerate the development and implementation of universal community broadband solutions pursuant to 30 VSA 8081, see generally Act 71. And whereas Act 71 provides the board with approval authority with respect to budget development, program design, grant awards, and all other funding allocations for broadband with respect to broadband deployment pursuant to 30 VSA 8084A. And whereas the General Assembly appropriated $30 million to the board for the purpose of leveraging federal grants for broadband deployment in Vermont pursuant to Act Number 3 of 2023 appropriation. And whereas the VCBB has determined that the appropriation directs the board to allocate the $30 million to eligible providers with an approved VCBB Universal Service Plan pursuant to Act 71. Whereas the appropriation will be allocated among eligible providers who had filed letters of interest with the VCBB as of July 1st, 2024, seek matching funds for qualifying federal program for broadband deployment, have an existing Act 71 construction grant agreement pursuant to 30 VSA 8086, existing grant, and are in compliance with all existing grant conditions as certified by VCBB staff to the board. So these are qualified eligible providers. And whereas VCBB has developed a data-driven process for allocating the appropriation among qualified eligible providers and to determine the estimated cost to complete construction of the remaining or a subset of the remaining eligible underserved addresses in the USPs of qualified eligible providers. Whereas the process seeks to equitably allocate the appropriation among qualified eligible providers to provide the 25% matching funds required for federal grants. And whereas if the appropriation is insufficient to provide the match to all qualified eligible providers, the appropriation will be allocated using the highest percentage available. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the board authorizes VCBB staff to issue grant amendments to existing grants based on the following conditions. Number one, as determined by the process, each qualified eligible provider receives 25% match for the cost of the project funded by the federal grant to the extent of the equitable proportionate share of the appropriation. And two, providing each qualified eligible provider, A, commits to applying for a federal grant on or before December 31st, 2024, that's the date change, for construction to complete or support the completion of construction of remaining or a subset of the remaining un- and underserved addresses in its Universal Service Plan, USB. And B, that no portion of the award is available until the qualified eligible provider provides the VCBB with notice of the federal grant award. And C, agrees to relinquish any claim to the appropriation in the event it does not secure the federal grant award identified in its letter of interest. That's the end of it.
Okay, so that is the motion. I'm going to put that motion on the floor so that we can talk about it. We need a second. As read by Rob and as provided to us by Tony with the one edit on the whereas. That is the motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Let's open it up for discussion.
Patty,
Go ahead, Laura.
Who else have we received feedback on this from? Or assistance, technical assistance outside of staff?
Outside of staff, this concept has been reviewed with the NTIA, which may be one of the federal funders for the grants. Because of the nature of this appropriation and the nature of all these programs being competitive, to your question, it has not been reviewed with CUDs or other eligible providers.
Okay. And have we received any input from any CUDs or eligible providers?
We have not.
Post. Okay.
We have not.
May I comment?
Rob, just before you comment, Holly, Rob, it's been posted on the website
Yes,
and it was included in packet, which was close to this version, other than the date and that one word change.
correct.
And the packet is circulated to everyone?
The packet is available to everybody, yes.
Okay. All right, Holly?
And Rob, also, you did, I said that Tony was supposed to do this, but you did send a letter to eligible providers asking them if they were interested in participating in a federal
Correct.
grant program that would be addressed here. So that was even before all those other things happened.
Yes, that was to ensure that we reach the deadline as stated in the motion in June, I guess.
Yeah. I would also like to point out to the board, just for a point of clarification, that this creates a formula with a number of conditions for participants and allows the staff to make the allocations and awards. So we would approve this process, and then the staff would do the allocation work because, as the staff has pointed out a number of times, it is objective. It's based on third-party numbers and formulaic costs for the completion of the un- and underserved addresses within the USP.
Okay, other comments? Are there any other comments, feedback?
Patty, sorry, Laura.
Yes, go ahead, Laura.
I'm trying to open up the agenda. Again, I'm not in my normal location. Do we envision, as part of this process, taking any, I can't see our agenda. Are we taking any feedback prior to us passing this motion?
We did have public comment just before this item was on the agenda.
That's right. Okay, thank you. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Any other comments, questions?
I guess I have one. I
Go ahead,
just
Holly.
realized in making my comment that the board is authorizing staff to make these awards, but requiring staff to give the board a certificate of compliance with the existing grant award. So it would be imperative that staff do the compliance review before it make these awards and give us written notice of any non-compliance.
Christine, do you want to comment about that?
I think that's, yeah, we're happy to do that. Oh, yeah.
And you
Yeah,
understand that nature of what we're passing today?
Yeah, in the nature, I mean, I think we can do a formal compliance review of each grantee and status, and we have a process for doing that.
Yeah, that is required for any grant and grant amendment.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's standard, but we will emphasize it more so.
Just make sure you give us written notice if the compliance review is negative. Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's call the question. All those in favor of the motion as written, read, and yes, as written and read, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Trying to find my packet. Second here.
Confirm next meeting date.
Thank you. Item 5, confirm next meeting date of August 12th. And also in person. The suggestion was to have another in-person meeting sooner than later, so we proposed August. Does that work for all board members to meet in person in Montpelier?
What's the date again? The 12th?
August 12th.
Yep.
I can. I'm on vacation that week, but I can.
It's a great start to your vacation.
I might finish the year out this way.
We could promise you a pina colada or something.
Sure.
Holly and Laura, you?
I can do it.
Excellent. Laura?
If it's in the morning, I can do it in person. If it's in the afternoon, I cannot do it in person. I have a special. Oh, possibly I could do it in person. But I have a meeting that I'm hosting, a board meeting that I am hosting at 3 for work, which I have to.
Okay. It would be the standard meeting time of noon to 4.
Okay,
So you can't do it then.
no,
Yeah.
I'll have to be virtual, or
Okay.
no. Well, no, I would really prefer to be there. So.
Understood. Let's go ahead with holding in person, because at least four of us can make it.
Is there
Holly?
any sense in asking if we could hold it in the morning?
I can't make the morning.
Okay, asked and answered.
Yep. All right, so Christine, we will, let's prepare to meet in person on August 12th at noon in Montpelier.
With a
Yep,
virtual.
we're finalizing arrangements now, so for the location.
All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I move that we adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
I just want to clarify that is also a virtual option for August 12th.
Yes, there'll be, when we meet in person, there's always the virtual option for anybody else that can't meet in person. All right, any other comments before we adjourn? All right, hearing none. Thank you, everybody. All those in favor of adjournment, please say
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
thank you. Motion
Thank
carries.
you.
Thank you.
Take care of your foster grants.
Bye-bye.
I hope you're okay.